We are live with April Elliott Kent of Big Sky Astrology. Hello, April.
Hi, Jay. How are you?
I'm good. I'm going to give you a little introduction. I'm assuming that everybody who reads Moon Kids Astrology knows who you are, but this may go viral, hopefully. We can always aspire. Jupiter is conjunct Sun today, so I'm going to introduce you to those who may not know you. So just to read from April's bio on her website, April Elliott Kent has studied astrology since 1973 and has practiced professionally since 1990. She's the author of 3 books, The Astrological Transits, The Beginner's Guide to Using Planetary Cycles to Plan and Predict Your Day, Week, Year, or Destiny, which was just published this year by Fair Winds Press. We have also The Essential Guide to Practical Astrology, which was published in 2011, and Star Guide to Weddings, published in 2008. Her astrological writing has also appeared in The Mountain Astrologer, Dell Horoscope magazines, and Llewellyn's annual Moon Sign, Sun Sign, and Sabbath's Almanac books. April founded her website, BigSkyAstrology.com, in 1999, and has also contributed to Mooncircles.com, BeliefNet.com, and AOL Horoscopes. April has lectured and led workshops for numerous astrology groups and served on the faculty of 2012 United Astrological Conference. A graduate of San Diego State University with honors in communication, April is also a member of the International Society for Astrological Research, San Diego Astrological Society, and the Authors Guild. She makes her home in a 1923 bungalow in San Diego with her long-suffering husband and their 2 domineering cats.
And you can attest to all of that.
What's that?
You can attest to all of that.
I've been there. I've seen it. Johnny does not strike me as long-suffering. He seems pretty amenable and easygoing, but
suffering.
Maybe just the domineering cats. Maybe.
Yeah, they rule this roost.
They rule you. They want their castle to be their own for sure.
They do.
So welcome.
I am exhausted just hearing that bio. I know that I wrote it, but I'm sitting here ticking it up and going, damn. Well, first of all, I feel super old because, I will say I was 12 in 1973. So, less people think I'm a good 10 or 20 years old than I actually am, which is old enough. It was just a wee slip of a thing.
And so you were 12 when you first started studying, so what did you first caught wind of astrology? Were you in a supermarket? Did you pick up one of those fantastic scrolls that used to be around?
No, I was at my almost sort of stepbrother's house. He had this apartment with his girlfriend, and they were sort of swinging 70s. There were like beaded curtains on the doors and stuff like that. And they had a copy of Linda Goodman's Sun Sign sitting on the coffee table. And at that point, the only thing I knew about astrology was I was a Leo. And the only reason I knew that was because my cousin, who's also a Leo, told me, oh, you're a Leo. And I said, okay, that's cool, I guess. So anyway, I read Linda Goodman's Sun Signs, and it launched 1,000 astrology careers. Every other astrologer I talked to got their start with Linda Goodman's Sun Signs. So that's how it started, and it was just, years and years of sitting in the aisles at the bookstores at the mall in the astrology section because I couldn't afford to buy books.
Yeah.
And the library didn't have much, and this is in the terrible Jurassic pre-internet days, so we couldn't go online and learn. So I didn't actually meet an astrologer until I was, I think, 27. So I was out there sort of in the wild all by myself for many years, just having it as a hobby. And of course, the minute I met an astrologer, I started studying with her, and the next thing you know, I'm leaving my job to be a professional astrologer. So
Yay. I don't know about you, but one thing that I kind of identify as my career trajectory with astrology. I wouldn't tell anybody it was like at the top of my list. It just kind of, I found myself unable to fit in any other box kind of thing. Like I felt myself displaced, quite honestly, in the 9-to-5 workday world, and I wasn't using my talents or skills. So when you think about like that time, did you actually, was that on your top 3 list of careers when you decided to kind of make that leap and study with your first mentor? And
yes, and the funny thing about it is, from the time I was very, very young, I can remember saying to myself, I'm either going to be a musician, which is, I was a really serious musician and did that very seriously for a lot of years. I really thought that was going to be my career. But the other thing I really wanted to be was an astrologer. And I didn't even know what an astrologer did. I had never met one, as I say. I had read a few books, and that's all I knew. But I loved something about the idea of being an astrologer. And I was fascinated by it always. And I found myself in the business world, the workaday world. My mother, being a very sensible lady, a Taurus with a Virgo moon, was supportive of my aspirations to be a musician, but she was also very realistic. And we came from a farm background, and she said, I believe that you can do that, but I'd like you to have some marketable skills. Because she had seen my father, who was a farmer and had to work very, very hard to just make a living as a farmer. He had to do a lot of other stuff on the side. And she said, you just need to be able to support yourself while you're doing these other things. So she encouraged me to take secretarial classes in high school, which thank goodness I did, because not only did it earn my living for, probably 10 years before I became an astrologer, but also those skills have come in so handy as a writer and an astrologer. So I'm super happy I did all that. And I do have a Virgo midheaven in my chart, so it made sense I would do some time in the secretarial ghetto. Mind you, it's not a ghetto for everybody, but for me, please. I got 1,000 planets in Leo. I was not cut out. And I have Mars and Pluto very close to the midheaven. So what would happen is I would get into these jobs. I would distinguish myself. People thought I was great. They'd keep promoting me. And then I developed a horrible, snarly attitude because I don't like being told what to do. It's more or less the definition of a secretary, right? So I did that for, like I say, probably 10 years. Yeah. But really, by the time I found the life raft, which was professional astrology, I was ready to bail. I was going to do something else. There was no way I could stay where I was. So like you, it was kind of, I can do this, but I can't do this here indefinitely. I had really hit the glass ceiling because I hadn't finished college at that point, and I was really smart, but I didn't have the credentials really to go much further in the business world. So astrology is great for that because there are kind of no rules.
There are no rules. It has its total freedom, and then it has its like kind of limitations too. Like, there's no infrastructure to support me.
There's complete terror for instance.
I am out here floating in space with myself and my astrologer friends, each on different satellites.
I'm picturing us like Sandra Bullock and George Clooney in Gravity, and we're trying to connect with each other way out in space, and we're not quite really.
It's interesting, your story, because I think I identify with it, and I think others will do. I mean, I do some mentoring, and I'm sure you've worked with students or clients who are interested in kind of jumping ship on their career, and they're kind of in a place where it's like I feel like we can do a lot of things. Maybe that's a part of being an astrologer too, like the Mercury, the jack of all trades. We can get good at something. You got good at your job. I got good at my administrative job too, and then they wanted to give me more responsibilities just like you. And so I wonder, like, what is that deciding factor between those of us who actually make that leap into a very non-traditional career path when we're being rewarded by social standards. With, we've got the skills, we've earned the merit to get promotion, it's all very socially condoned and acceptable, and there's this piece that I can see some of my students struggle with sometimes. It's like, well, I could keep doing this because I'm being rewarded for it and I'm good at it, or I'm good enough, or I could follow this path of, astrology.
Complete insanity, yeah. I remember somebody saying, and I don't remember the context, I don't know if it was something to do with the arts or it probably was something to do with music or acting. And they always say that if there's anything else at all you can do, do it. Anything will be easier. And having been a musician, I can really see the corollary to professional astrology. Not many people can earn a living as an astrologer.
We can substitute astrology, we can substitute writing in with that too, because it's just hard. It's just hard. It's a hard path.
It is a hard path, and I certainly don't mean to compare myself to people who are doing real work, like my father, who went out every day and he grew things. And at the end of the growing season, he had trucks full of bushels of stuff. And that's something you really put your hand on and say, yeah, I did that. And that was actually something I liked a lot about secretarial work, that at the end of the day, there was a stack of papers that started out here, and at the end of the day, they were over here, and they were done. And there's something in me that really likes that. And that is something that's a little bit challenging for me as an astrologer, to feel that I've really kind of ticked off, and then at the end of the day, I know I actually did something. You get a bit of that when you write, because you can print.
Yeah, I was going to say, do you get some of that fulfilled by writing your books, which is,
I hate writing.
One of your books just came out, Astrological
Transits. So I shouldn't be sitting here talking about how I hate to write. I don't hate the book. I love the book. I think it turned out pretty well, actually.
Yeah.
But I don't like writing. It's not work I enjoy. I've got much more satisfaction from lots of different kinds of work. Being a musician, doing the work itself was beautiful. Even being a secretary, parts of that work were really, really satisfying. Others were not. But with astrology, especially with writing, I love the feeling of finishing something, and I love to go back and read my old pieces and say, my God, I don't know how I wrote that. That's awesome. But to sit down and actually do it just every time, and I know you know this, every time you sit down it feels like this epic struggle, and it gets harder as you go on because you feel you're trying to compete with what you've done before. So it's, can I do it as well this time? And it's, I don't know. So, I don't love writing, but
you love the end product. You love having something to hold in your hand.
I liked writing. I liked writing when it was a lot less structured for me. When it wasn't all writing to the deadline and writing, it's another full moon, it's another new moon,
Yeah.
I'm sitting and writing. It's always been, before I was a musician, before I was an astrologer, before I was a secretary, I was a writer. I've always been a writer. So I will be doing that forever in one way or another. But I think I have a talent for taking things I really love and turning them into things that feel a little bit miserable.
Maybe it's part of, having such an independent midheaven constellation of planets up there. I think, were we talking about that a few minutes ago? Yeah, you have Mars and Pluto up there, and it's kind of like a configuration about being your own boss, right? Like, you need to do your own thing. I can identify with that, with my Aries planets and a couple square the midheaven too. And it's like, John always tells me, he's like, the other day I was kind of got a hair in me. I was like, I want to do more health coaching. Maybe I'll go out and, look on LinkedIn and see what's going on out there. And he was like, okay, you're telling me that you're going to go out and get a job. Every time you get a job where somebody tells you what to do, you wind up hating it. I was like, oops, busted. But I really want more clients, so it's like, yes, I have to figure out how to do it myself. And I think that's part of the Aries Mars.
Well, I think that's probably part of the magic thing that you were wondering. What is it that makes some of us launch out on this crazy path? Now, what is a little harder to define to me is, why do some people manage to stay on that path for a really long time, and some people burn out? I mean, I understand why people burn out with this work, because it is really difficult. And what I don't understand is what keeps someone
going.
Yeah, what keeps
for
us
decades.
going for decades, because there are times, I can't tell you how many times I've said, I'm not going to do this anymore. This is really too hard, and I'm tired of, I don't know, doing certain things over and over and feeling like I'm never really getting anywhere. And that's why it was kind of staggering hearing you read my bio, and I'm like, well, I actually have done some stuff. But it never feels like you're doing enough. You're always measuring yourself against some strange benchmark that you never feel you're reaching. And it's always
elusive and never really defined anyways, and it's just always more and more and more.
Yeah,
like some kind of cookie monster sitting there waiting for you to...
Cookies.
Why did you mention cookies? Maybe I should go have some.
Cookies would be great, just about.
I want to talk about your book.
Okay, let's talk about the book.
Because just like reading your bio, you got to like bask in the glory of your achievements. Like sometimes we don't get to experience that for ourselves. I had, I've had similar feelings where like somebody's reading it, I'm like, oh, who's that? Oh, that's me. I did all those things.
Yeah.
And so you have done an amazing accomplishment. You've written and gone through the publication process, which is its own amazing accomplishment. 3 books, the latest being Astrological Transits. And, as I love this work. I was looking forward to it from the moment you told me you were doing this book. I said, oh, I can't wait. I need another book. There's so few to bring into my client sessions about transits. And I think I might have mentioned this to you when I heard you were writing this. Is I was looking forward to your kind of grounded, common sense wisdom that's like not so doomsday. Because there are some transits that they can be pretty scary and intense, and then you read something somebody writes about it, and it's like 10 times worse than you ever thought it could be. So even astrologers, get sparked by that unease of reading something that, it's almost like, you really have to decide if you're doing more harm than good sometimes by saying, mentioning the word death or, something like that. Maybe especially now that Jupiter's in Virgo and the sky is going to be falling, and I imagine there are going to be more people thinking, worried and kind of thinking, inclined to turn towards the worst. Maybe, I don't know. But, I often, when I'm reading a transit book, I often find myself editing. I'll be reading something to a client sitting right there, and then I'll be like, I'm going to skip that sentence.
Right.
Because I know them. And I know, I can feel their anxiety, or I can da-da-da. So what I like about this work is you're very common sense grounded. You make statements like, and I pulled this one out just, I can really turn to any page. But you make statements like, and this is on Saturn. You say, I won't lie to you. Saturn's transits can bring frustration, deprivation, and loneliness. However, they are means to an end, not the end itself. Saturn has no interest in abandoning you in a pit of despair. Rather, these transits teach you what you are made of and force you to create a life that is more nurturing and supportive of the real you. That's a really lovely spin on Saturn, a new look at the old devil. You know what I mean? It's just very helpful to put it in those terms. And I think that that's the real value of your work for me. Maybe, other people will find it, but for me, it's like having this resource that actually gives you a way of working with the energies without going into adrenaline, right away.
That's so great to hear, because it is exactly what I've always wanted to do. And I was rereading the other day an interview I did with somebody, and they were saying something about how, gosh, I wonder if it was in an interview I did with you, but it was something like how do you talk to people about the difficult transits or whatever that's coming up? And I
Donna
said,
Cunningham just did a piece on that. You might
I've got to read it.
That.
She's awesome.
Yeah, and it was amazing. And it's like, how to counsel clients through difficult transits.
And the thing that again, I have one of these, wow, I can't believe I said that moments, because I said something like, it's important to be real with people about what's going to happen, but don't just leave them in a crumpled heap of despair. Right. That then you have to give them some tool and some spin, as you say, or some way to kind of look at it so that it's empowering. Because what was always missing to me when I was a little unguarded 12, 13-year-old person picking up Alan Leo or something there in Walden Books and reading these really scary things, it didn't feel positive at all, and it felt fated, and I felt doomed. And that is not my perspective on the world, and it's certainly not my perspective as an astrologer. And if there was anything I wanted to do in writing this book, it was to say, I'm never going to be somebody who's all unicorns and cotton candy. I mean, I've had enough Pluto transits. We've all had enough Saturn transits to say, I'm not going to lie to you, because if I start out from a premise of, oh, no, this is just super empowering, this Pluto transit, then people don't trust you when it ends up being just dreadful. So you have to say, look, sometimes life is really tough, and here is your job. In response to this situation. You bring so many strengths and so much wisdom yourself to the situation, and this is what the planet is asking of you. It's just saying use these tools at this time. So I'm really, really glad that came across, because you know how it is. You're writing a book, and I always find myself in these situations where I'm writing a book in like 15 minutes. I mean, I have these really aggressive deadlines, and I never have time to go back really and review much. And I could crack open that book right now and be as surprised as you by anything I find in it. But that's kind of exciting in a way, because it just means you're really drawing from a deep place.
That's right. That's right.
And to get it all out. So
establish that connection. Yeah, I think that that we as astrologers, like you said, we have to walk that line between being realistic and giving a nice positive potential outcome. And it kind of brings me to another question that I just have kind of a few burning questions. But when I was thinking about transits, and I reflected on my own work and how two people can be experiencing the same transit and experience totally different things, right? I have a client who's Neptune transiting her Venus at the same time of her Neptune square, fell in love with her Prince Charming, and it's happening. I've had another client with this very similar scenario, just had the classic impossible relationship scenario. So my question would be like, how do you sort through all the options of a transit? And I imagine, as you were writing this book, because I know what it's like to go through this process, okay, what does this mean? And you kind of put it all out on the table, right? You put it all out there, and then you kind of have to pick what you're going to go with, what you're going to run with. So while you were writing this, or rather, let's just move it into client work, because that's my burning question. Do you have a methodology? Do you have is it like, okay, here are 3 transits, they're all saying similar things? Do you find it's intuition? How do you kind of sort through all of the options that we can say about any given transit?
I cheat. What I do is I talk to them about their prior transit. If they're having a Neptune-Venus, at some point in their life, they've had something else involving Venus and Neptune. It could be a progression. It could be a solar arc progression. And then there's the natal relationship between the Venus and Neptune in the person's chart, because that has so much to do with the way the transit manifests itself. So I talk to them first about their own Venus Neptune. That tells me how they see these guys and how they're working together in their chart. So talk to them about that, and then I've done the research before I speak with them with these past moments in their life when they've had similar transits or progressions. And I talk to them about what happened, what was happening with their relationship. Because you know what? People's patterns don't change that much. So if I can get in the neighborhood of how they dealt with it before, they may have made some progress. They may have had some growth, and that's a nice thing to be able to show them. But it could also be that they're repeating an old pattern. So at that point, we can talk about it and say, wow, how do you see this situation now differently than the one that you had then? And what do you think you've learned? And if you could, travel forward in time from your past self to say, do this or don't do that, what would you say? And so it's super easy if you approach it like that. It's complicated because they've got 50,000 transits going at the same time.
Right.
But we all have our methodology of how to reduce that list and make it meaningful. So this is just, wow, yeah, Neptune to a personal planet is a big transit. So
I'm with you. I like talking to people. I like talking. Like, how did this go for you? How are you feeling now? Let's explore your experience as it stands, because it takes a lot of the mystery and the potential, anxiety out of, when we look at that book and we read that doom and gloom prophecy or whatever, not in yours, by the way. It can help just kind of ground, well, what's your experience around this? And I always find, talking to people. Yes,
well,
ding, ding.
Because I figure, I know some astrology, and I probably know more astrology than they do, but they're the expert on their life.
That's right.
They've been living it all those years. So, well, enlighten me. Tell me about you. And it's not that I'm not going to guide the conversation and bring what it is that I understand about the symbols to direct the conversation. But I figure I'm going to respect what they have to say and empower them, because I see that as my job, is if they feel empowered that they are the expert about their life and the authority about what's going on with them, then they can make informed decisions, and they're in the driver's seat. And that's the whole point as far as I'm concerned. In writing a book like the Transits book that I wrote, it is really tricky to do exactly what you say, to say, okay, how am I going to present this in a way that honors the 50,000 ways that this is?
Right.
And what you end up doing is exactly what you do if you write sun sign horoscopes, because you face exactly the same problem with those. And what you're trying to do is be vague enough to be all-encompassing, but specific enough that people feel they're getting something from it. So it's a challenge, and I'll be honest with you, I don't feel I completely nailed it in my book. In the specific sections where you're talking about a planet, transiting another planet, that was really, really hard in those sections. Because there's so many different ways. So what I just tried to do was say, here are the overarching themes, and you will find yourself somewhere within this. But it's hard to get some people to think in that way, because people are used to, they're used to a really fatalistic thinking, and they're used to I can see their eyes start to glaze over as I'm talking to them about, the big picture in the Sagittarian way that I have. And they're like, well, but should I go out with this guy or not? And I'm like,
You're like, draw a tarot card, damn it. I'm an astrologer.
I got nothing for you. Do it if you want. I don't know. So it was hard. So this book was it was a lot harder than my last book, because my last book was quite basic, and there was a lot of cookbook stuff that I had to think about a bit, but it's all stuff that as astrologers we've thought about for years by the time you sit down and write a book like that. But the transit stuff, we tend to get a little sloppy with transits, or I did. I didn't want to think about transits of outer planets to outer planets in your chart. I couldn't find a way in that made sense to me, that brought it down to earth. So I had to really struggle, but it was a great exercise because you really had to think about that stuff. And that it was hard, though. It was kind of grueling writing that stuff.
And you know, I hear your Virgo planets being like, I could have done better. And I have, here's my Cancer planets saying, you did a great job. You did awesome. Oh, my God. It was a tone, like, it was so ambitious. And that was one of my questions, you know, is like, I know you were sought to write this book by your publisher, but I mean, I'm imagining your answer is no, but did you ever envision taking on such an ambitious work?
I would never have written a book if people hadn't come to me and said, write this book. So what happened with this one was they just said, gee, we're looking for someone to write a book on transits. I'm like, God, I would love to write a book on transits. No, I had never in my life thought about writing a book on transits. But as soon as they said it, I'm like, yeah, that sounds awesome. I could totally write that book. And there I was. My ambition had written a check that my poor little moon had to fill, you know. So I never, ever would have, if I had taken even a second glance at Rob Hand's Planets and Transits book before, I don't think I'd have had the guts, because it's like, and his is much more, and I just want to put a plug for it here, because they're very different books, my book and his book, but his is the go-to text for transits. And the thing that you really get from his book that you don't get from mine is if you're really interested in all the different ways that Neptune can aspect Venus, you can find it in Rob's book. He'll tell you about the square. He'll tell you about sextile. He'll tell you about the opposition. And there is some interest in reading those. But my approach really was to get to the person who's pretty new at this transit stuff and to make it a little more user-friendly. So I just took the two planets and said, here's what this guy wants, here's what this guy wants. How are the ways in which this might play out? So
I have to say that it was a relief for me to see that from you, because that's often how, when a client and I are kind of piecing together, how's this transit going to go? You know, we kind of start with the building blocks. You know, what is the sun? What is Pluto? You know, what kind of language are they speaking? And then we kind of open into our imaginations. Whereas, again, I agree, Rob Hand is an awesome go-to reference. But when I open that book, I sometimes have to backtrack and unlearn what I've just read to get into my imagination. You know what I mean?
It's too prescriptive, yeah.
Yeah, because the statements are really definitive sounding and very authoritative.
Oh, he's a Sag, you know. I mean,
it's fine, go for it. But it's just a different kind of approach to reading transits to me. And so when I was looking at these planetary combinations, I was like, oh, you know, that I can kind of get behind a little bit, and just kind of the simple aspect rather than the, you know, because it allows us to speak rather than, you know, the planets kind of setting up our experience for us.
Well, I'm glad you saw it that way, and I'm glad you felt that way about it, and I hope other people do too. When I go through with my Virgo planets in my mind, and I put myself in the seat of a really, really critical reviewer, the thing that always comes up for me is, oh, well, she didn't even bother differentiating between a sextile and a square and and I'm like, well, yeah, of course you're going to have a different experience. And I did talk about the aspects in my defense and generally what they mean. But yeah, I know when I was getting to that point with astrology, where I was trying to master aspects so that I could really figure out transits, that it was really overwhelming. And it would have been really helpful to me, I think, to have a book that approaches it like this one, that says, okay, well, let's start generally and work our way in. So I hope that it works on the level for people.
Well, I find it very, very, very helpful in that regard. And so did you think that when you were, I mean, imagine your publisher said, write a book on transits, and they were not astrologers, so they have no idea what that's going to look like. So how did you go forward? What was your vision for this book, and did you have something you wanted to do differently? I mean, I'm hearing some of that already. I'm hearing that you made some critical choices. But, yeah. What would you?
Well,
How would you go about that?
the first thing I had to ask them is, how big of a book do you want?
Mm-hmm.
Because if I have 400 pages, I'm going to do something very different than if I have 275 pages. So that meant really getting to the nitty-gritty of it. And what came up for me that I think is a little different with the book compared to some others is how it's laid out with the planets up front and the houses in the back.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think that it's two really different ways of thinking about transits. First, you're looking at a planet and what it's doing to other planets and what it means generally. And then, where is it playing out? And that's where the houses come in. And I actually was really happy with the way the houses section turned out, a little bit more than with the planets, and maybe just because it's a little less complex. But I think I think what I was trying to do was just give as many practical tools as possible in a relatively small book. I mean, my book's oversized in terms of dimensions, but there's not a ton of pages. So I couldn't do what Rob Hands set out to, even if I possibly could. I didn't have that luxury, and I didn't have the time, frankly, to write, sun sextile, sun square, sun whatever. So, yeah, I think that's probably really what I was trying to do, was just make it, no, you're always just trying to show people how you do it and how you think about it.
Mm-hmm.
This is how I think about transits. And it was kind of cool because as you go on in astrology, you acquire a lot of different techniques along the way. And you start playing with progressions, and you look at midpoints, and you think about asteroids, and you look at all this stuff. But there was something about just going back to transits and how powerful they are as a tool that I'm using progressions less and less. I still use them, but I don't use as many of them, and I don't spend as much time on them in the reading, especially if you're reading for somebody for the first time and they're almost always in crisis when they come to you. You can get there with the transits. You're going to see it, with Saturn or Uranus or Pluto or, God help us, Neptune, but then neither of us knows what to say. The client are just going, they're like, oh, no.
The other day I was on the phone with a client, and I started drifting off while talking about Neptune, and I was like, I don't know if anything I said just made sense, but we'll just say Neptune entered the room.
Exactly. Well, I feel as if instead I should sing or do an interpretive dance, and that maybe that will convey something about Neptune, because words don't get it done. Neptune was by far the hardest section of this book to write.
I bet.
Because you don't know what to say about it. It really, I had to get kind of poetic with it. And I thought I could just hear my Virgo planets back there saying, this is not practical, this is not helpful. And I'm thinking, well, that's not Neptune's job. Neptune's job is to transport us elsewhere. And so, yeah, Neptune's hard.
Yeah, every time Pisces full moon rolls around or Pisces new moon rolls around, there's a little part of me that goes, eek, I don't want to do this, because like the writer trying to capture Neptune in words. Like we have this Pisces full moon upon us, right, as we're recording this. And I was just like, oh my goodness, why am I feeling so discouraged? Oh, it's Pisces.
I'm really glad to hear you say that, because you've got a lot more, you've got all the Cancer stuff, and I would have thought...
You would think, right?
Yeah.
You would think, with all my water proclivities, that I have a deeper grasp and it comes easier. It doesn't.
It was interesting. I went to do something for the Pisces full moon, and my first move always these days, because I'm really busy with a lot of different projects, is, well, what do I have in my archives that I can run again? So, and the problem was I had done that for the last 5 years with Pisces, so it was really hard. I did manage to find something really old that I could retool and use, and I felt kind of bad, because I thought, well, I'm really giving Pisces short shrift. I thought, I haven't written a lot on that, but I really like what I've written, and I'm not sure I would have anything more to bring to the topic.
Yeah. You have to. That's a critical call that we make when we do this stuff year in, year out, right? We're both essay writers. Right. We do the new moon and the full moon, by the way, listeners, and so we've been doing this for years, and it's hard sometimes to generate something better than you've done before, especially when you have a collection that you know you've nailed it, and you've gotten the feedback, and then you have to compete with that, like you said. It's just like,
Don't want to do it. Don't want
I'm
to.
not up for that. Yeah. I love the subtitle of your book, The Beginner's Guide to Using Planetary Cycles to Plan and Predict Your Day, Week, Year, or Destiny. Oh. And I don't know how you feel about it, but I like it because it puts power in the reader's hands.
That's true.
I think that I'm always kind of, my orientation more and more as the years go by as an astrologer is I want you to be able to do this for yourself and know where this is coming from. I am not your guru. I'm not the psychic. I'm not just.
Right.
Yeah, I have my own skill set that I bring to our discussion, but it's that whole thing that we get in a catch-22 with astrology sometimes is we know we can predict with it, but that's often not the best and most helpful use of astrology. It's what we bring to the table. So when you were writing that, because there's a bit in the front about how to plan your month and year and day, I thought that was really cool. Do you and you mentioned you don't always check the transits before you go out and run errands. Myth, exploding astrology myth. Astrologers don't always know where the planets are, and we don't.
I could tell where the moon is right now. I have literally no clue. But,
right.
Well, that was actually an approach I took in a very limited way in my last book, The Essential Guide to Practical Astrology. And I don't know where I came up with it, but I really liked it as an approach, and I got a chance to expand it a little bit in this book. And honestly, my editor wrote the subtitle of the book. So, and it was a negotiation because I had to get them down from some really what I found very objectionable language that they want to sell books. And I need to defend the integrity of my profession. So anyway, so we got down to that one. But having made that the subtitle, I thought, well, I should probably acknowledge that in some way in the book. So, yeah, so that's how we came up with this little, here are the things, if you did want to go crazy, if this is no ordinary day and you want to figure out how to assess it, here are the things you would look at. These are the fast-moving things. If you want to think about the next month, here are the big things to look at, because you don't have to look at everything every day or for every purpose. So my idea was you've got a garage full of tools. Which ones do you need for this job? And it's very different for the day. But, yeah, I don't look at the transits every day usually. I might look at them once a week because I have to post something on Facebook and, I have to figure out whatever. But do you? You don't.
Do I look at the transits every day?
Yeah.
Well, I have my little handy pocket astrologer, and I'd say probably 75% of the time, because I think it's because that's how I learned. That was actually one of my first ways of teaching myself astrology was to follow these daily little pitter-patter of troll feet, through the house or through the world or wherever I am. It's like, oh, the moon's in Aries and somebody just started arguing in front of me, or oh, the moon's in Leo and sextile Venus. That girl is wearing a pretty interesting, flamboyant outfit. And, I started noticing things that I wouldn't have otherwise noticed had I not kind of started doing that. So it's kind of more or less a habit now to do that for me. But at the same time, I can go through a period of, I live, we're astrologers, but that's not all we do. We don't live, eat, and breathe astrology. So, I get caught up in life. Few days, even a week. I don't know what's going on, and then I'll kind of sink back into it. But most of the time I do, because it helps me stay connected to the archetypes. And I think as astrologers, we're kind of always, we have our ways and means of doing that for ourselves, which brings me to another question. Do you have any little rituals that you do before you give readings, or any special things that you kind of have learned that kind of get you on top of your game and make you feel like in touch with your intuition or make you a better communicator. I don't know. Any kind of little tricks.
Some days I'm thinking I really need them because I got used to really to scheduling sessions in the afternoons because traditionally that was my more high energy time. These days I tend to want to nap in the afternoon, so I've had to sort of rethink that. But often I'm in a situation where, okay, well, I've got something and I'm kind of tired. How am I going to get myself, into character for this? So what part of the ritual really is going through the chart, because I do a lot of prep that I really don't technically need to do anymore. I go through and I find all the aspects in the natal chart. And then when I'm ready, I flip the paper over to see if I can draw it from memory. Because my teacher always said, well, that tells you you've looked long enough at the chart.
Right,
so I'll do that. And then I'll do the thing where I have the tri-wheel with the natal and the progressions and the solar arcs. Then I write the little transits around the outside, and that's a little ritual. And then I have this little worksheet that I use to sort of help me really, really look at it and spend some time with it and think, well, what are the big progressions? What are the big transits? Where are the eclipses going to hit them? What progressed lunar phase they're in? So I think it's really those very basic Virgo little tasks that I do that makes me feel comfortable. It's like I've appeased the gods of Virgo, and I'm taken it seriously, and I'm pretty clear. And then I have to go in and I have to look to the past cycles that they had that were similar and find the dates. And so by the time I've done all of that, I'm feeling pretty comfortable that I'm ready to talk to the person. And then it's a question of maybe I'll do 5 minutes of meditation just to try to clear all the 50,000 things that are bombarding my head. I'm pretty new to meditation, so 5 minutes is a lot for a Gemini moon. So I feel pretty good if I've given 5 minutes of meditation. And then that's just a question of shooing the cats out of the room and getting ready to go.
Yeah.
So it's not fancy. I'm not a big ritual gal, but I think that's my version of ritual.
Yeah.
All those little Virgo things.
And sounds like I know that you do astro feng shui too. And we're not talking about the clients anymore, but for your own personal practices, when you see lunations or eclipses or transits coming down the pike, I know you've played with that idea of moving energy around in your house, making it more favorable.
Yeah, that's our friend Simone Butler, who also writes for Moon Circles. And she came up with this wonderful system where you track the new moon through the houses of your chart, and that each house of the chart correlates to a gua of the bagua. So that's where you put your ritual energy for the new moon, is in that room.
Where, I'm curious, tell me if you had a surprising occurrence due to your, tell me your favorite story.
Well, my favorite story is one that she loves to tell because it's so hilarious, is I did this big ritual in our bedroom because it's in the prosperity gua of our house. And we were getting always these new moons in Cancer, which for me, that's my 8th house. And that's one of the financial houses. So I was doing a big ritual around that. And what happened was, so I did this big ritual, and the first thing that happened was the bed collapsed. And then there was like all these, like our car broke down, and some appliances went on the fritz. It really was a catastrophe, all the stuff that was happening. And we ended up having to outlay a lot of money for stuff. What I found was, for me, if it was an area of the house that I had really been neglecting, or if it was an area of my life that I'd really been neglecting, doing that powerful ritual in that area, it would clear things out. But it's not always a smooth, straight-ahead process, because you have to lay the groundwork. And the next time when we had, I think, the new moon in Capricorn, which is in my 2nd house, which is the opposite gua, it's another financial house. And then I think that's probably when I got the contract for my 2nd book, which was more money than I made in my career up to that point from a single project. So it really did work. But it's like, first I had to clear out all that 8th house stuff. and all the psychology that was holding me back. And then by the time the new moon got to the second house, I did some more ritual, and I really got a great result from it. That's probably my favorite.
That is a great story.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and it's like where you can. By the way, you can use April's book to figure out, what planets are transiting where, and where you might want to throw a little magic, into your life. Because when we're talking about astrology, it's just such a natural companion to, making magic. Kind of working with these invisible forces, right? So I highly recommend these little pairing experimental methods with what you discover in April's book to kind of assuage the gods and move them in your favor, in your direction.
Bewitch them, yeah.
So do you want to play a game with me?
Sure.
I just felt like I was talking to Magnus, my dog. I'm always like, do you?
Little puppy.
So I have these kind of questions that I was inspired. I recently saw like a series of interviews, Vogue interviews, people, celebrities, and they kind of do these rapid fire questions, pack as much questioning and answering into like 5 minutes as possible.
Oh, God, okay.
And Nicole Kidman answered 73 questions in like 6 minutes, but no pressure. No, I'm just kidding.
No
I'm
pressure.
not going to answer you seven. I'm not going to ask you seven.
Eating with Nicole Kidman. Okay. She has the Oscar. I've never acted. Okay, I could do this.
No, I just thought it would be a fun way to find out more about you. It's kind of random, quirky little facts about my friend A. Okay. So we're going to do that, and it's hardly 73. It might be 20, maybe even less, depending on how we feel.
Okay.
So the trick is with this little game is to kind of go with your first thought, right? Just kind of like let it out.
I can do that. We'll see. We'll see if I can do that.
Okay, so here we go. What's your favorite thing about being an astrologer?
I think talking to people.
What's your least favorite thing about being an astrologer?
I think talking to people. Depends on the person.
What did you have for breakfast today?
I had a homemade Egg McMuffin.
What is one talent you wish you had?
Oh, gosh, fast. I wish. What talent I wish I had? I do wish I could dance. Can't dance. Don't me. Yeah, I'm hopeless.
What talent do you have that few people know about?
I can, you and I have talked about this because we both have it. I can go to any shopping mall or any store and magically find my way to exactly the thing I'm looking for, even if I've never been there before.
Mm-hmm. That's called being a shopping psychic. What's your favorite band of all time?
Oh, my favorite band. Band. Gosh. I only think of individual artists, and I'm not a big band gal. I probably, that's hard.
Let's do your favorite artist then.
I love Sean Colvin. I love Luca Bloom. I love Crowded House is a great band. I was a musician. I can't choose just one. But, yeah, I like Crowded House. I'll go with them as a nod to my New Zealand-born spouse.
And my next question was about New Zealand. Did you like New Zealanders before you met Johnny?
I didn't even know it existed. I didn't even know it existed. Well, no, that's not true. I knew it existed, but all I knew was a coworker had gone there and there were sheep. That's all I knew. I had never met a New Zealander.
You thought it was part of Australia, right? No.
No, I did not. I didn't think that. I did know they were different countries.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. What do you love about San Diego?
The weather. Weather's great.
What do you not like about San Diego?
It's a little it doesn't have the diversity that Los Angeles had. I lived in Los Angeles for many years.
So it's not Los Angeles.
It's not Los Angeles. And yeah, I really love my old home. I do. Sorry, San Diego. I do like you too.
What is the coolest thing about your house? Which is really cool, by the way, since I've been there. And
Thank you. I do love our house. Buddha Bob. I think he's the coolest thing. I think you will have to agree. It's the coolest thing.
Buddha Bob sitting there on the front porch, greeting everybody and saying, "Rub my belly." It's cool.
Very happy Buddha Bob. Yeah, definitely.
So what makes you smile?
Oh, my kitties.
What makes you cry?
Oh, everything. Oh, God. Anything. Movies and TV commercials and TV shows. I am a total sucker. If it's meant to twang my heartstrings, it will, and I will cry. I cry.
What scares you?
Zombies. Oh, I can't watch any of the zombie shows. Oh.
They are terrifying. Who are your most influential teachers? And they can be astrologers or not.
Well, one of my most influential teachers was actually my music teacher in high school, Tom Desmond, and then my astrology teacher, Diane Rongren, and Stephen Forrest, of course, is sort of our mutual guru, and my mom. She was a really great teacher. She taught me a lot of cool stuff.
Who would you rather be, a student or a teacher?
Oh, teacher. Oh, no, I'm the worst student in the world.
What would your superpower be if you could choose one?
Oh, I think I'd do the flight thing.
What historical figure would you like to invite to dinner?
Thinking about this. Wow, of all history, who would have the best table manners? Probably, like, I'm trying to think of somebody that wouldn't smack their lips or crunch their eyes. Any historical figure to dinner? I want to say, who would I feel comfortable having in the house? Because I want to say Elizabeth first, but there'd be the whole entourage. That would be, this is crazy, but I'm going to say Lyndon Johnson. I find him so interesting. And he probably wouldn't be super nice, but I think he'd
make for good dinner conversation.
Very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Lyndon Johnson.
What would be your last supper, your final meal?
Oh, macaroni and cheese.
Out of a box or homemade?
Oh, no, homemade. What am I, an animal?
Some people prefer that. I don't know why.
It is pretty good. I like it.
They like the little orange powder.
I know.
What's your least favorite food?
I can't eat anything pickled. Ugh.
What are you never without?
I'm never in terms of objects? What am I never without? Well, these days, I guess it's my stupid phone. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Your house is on fire and you can only take what's in your arms. What is that?
Oh, a cat, and hopefully Johnny has the other one.
Yeah.
Everything.
No astrology books, huh?
God, no, they're replaceable. You can buy those anywhere.
But what astrology books, like if you have those you couldn't bear to part with?
Oh, it would be Planets and Solar Return by Mary Shea, Planets and Aspect by Sue Tompkins, Rex Bill's Rulership book, probably a Stephen Forrest book just because I really like how he writes. So really any Stephen Forrest book. And what's another one that I always have around? I think I could make do with, an ephemeris probably. I could make do with those.
So favorite environment, water, mountains, plains, or desert?
Ooh, plain. I really like the desert.
Where would you live if you could live anywhere?
Well, I have a Gemini moon, so I have to choose two. One would be Devonport, which is an area of Auckland and New Zealand, and the other would be New Mexico, probably southern New Mexico.
What were you most surprised to learn about being an astrologer?
how little money you make.
How did I know you were going to say that?
Yeah.
Because I was surprised to learn that too.
I'm not completely surprised, but I was surprised by how little. I didn't expect to be rich, but I didn't expect to be quite so not rich.
If you were an astrologer, what would you be doing for a living?
I'd be writing. I'd be doing something with writing.
And you have completed my more than 20 questions game.
How long did I take?
It looks like it was about 7 minutes, maybe. I have to go.
Wow,
back.
so
You did good.
I know Nicole Kidman that I got the job done, so I'm feeling proud.
You did.
Thank you. That was
fun. You did, and it wasn't really a timed thing, anyways. It was
kind of fun. I was really stumped with a couple of historical figure. Was really. I guess I should have said Jesus or something, but I think Jonathan's probably more interesting. I don't know.
John often asks this question. He says, "What couple do you want to have over for dinner?" And he's expecting me to say a Hollywood couple, and he's like, "Angelina and Brad, George and Maria, Bill and Hillary."
Who would you have?
Oh my goodness! Revealing myself. Let's see, a couple. I think that I would be. I really am I've always been fascinated by Angelina Jolie. I know I'm not Team Jen, Team Angelina, whatever.
That's okay.
I just want to pick her brain. And current day couples. I find her interesting. Yeah, how about you, current day couples?
I think I'd probably have to go with the Obamas. I think they seem pretty interesting, and like they'd be really good guests. Like they would keep the conversational ball in play, which is really important to me. And I think they'd bring the kids, and the kids seem pretty cool. So yeah, I think they'd be fun. I have this big George Clooney crush, so maybe him and his wife.
That would be very fun.
Yeah, that would be really
super fun.
Mhm.
Yeah. The Obamas. I'm changing my answer to the Obamas because that sounds better. I can hear people going, "Gosh, he's so superficial." April's so smart.
No, it's not like that. Well, basically, of course, I went the Obamas over because Obama was born the day before me, so we can compare notes about our charts, you see.
Yeah, and I have a similar agenda with Angelina Jolie. Like we have, she's Cancer rising, Venus in Cancer. I kind of want to get into her Cancer. She's an Aries moon. So here we go. We have our astrological motivations, don't we?
I'm sure I would like her much more than I think I would. And I think I would absolutely hate her. So I probably would really like her. But he looks kind of like he doesn't take enough showers or something. I don't know. Like, you can come, Brad, but please tidy up first.
With your silverware, please, Brad. Can you at least do that? Well, it's been really, really fun talking with you, April. I think this is a good place to wind down. And before we go, why don't you let people know how to find you? I can't believe they don't know how to find you, but if, like I said, there may be some people out there who don't.
Well, do people even look at websites anymore? I mean, I've had my website forever. It's bigskyAstrology.com. So you can find me there. These days, I think a lot of people catch up with me on Facebook, and it's just facebook.com/bigskyAstrology. I kind of do Twitter, but I don't really get it, so I'm there, but don't expect much. So those are the best places. And
and listeners, buy Astrological Transits. Find it at your local bookseller. Find it on Amazon. Whatever you do, buy it and review it, because reviews are so vital to us struggling astrological authors trying to make our way in the world.
And it's really, and it's tough because I don't write enough reviews for people myself, so I know it's kind of a pain, but oh my God, I'll be your best friend if you review my book.
You hear that? She'll be your best friend if you review her book.
I'm not supposed to offer any enticements, but I think that's intangible. We can get away with that. So.
It's been so much fun talking with you, April.
Thank you
Best of luck for this wonderful book, getting wings and flying, and finding its way into a lot of people's libraries. I'm sure it will.
Thank you. I hope so, and that's a very good sentiment to conclude this Sun-Jupiter talk on. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it, and you're a pal.
Oh, you're too A.
Okay.
Okay, I always have fun talking with you, so let's talk again soon.
Let's.
Okay.